For many in the world of Boku no My Manliness Academia, the number one hero All Might was an icon that encouraged many to go out and become official heroes themselves. But as impactful as All Might might have been, he wasn't the only person to inspire the youth of the world. Other pro heroes have been shown to impact people's careers, much like how the flame hero Endeavor inspired the wing hero Hawks' career, and how the chivalrous hero Crimson Riot inspired the unshakable, unbreakable, and unquestionably manly career of Eijiro Kirishima, also known as Red Riot. Eijiro Kirishima is one of the major characters and 8th student of Class 1A at UA, who also works as a pro hero under the body mass index hero Fat Gum. He is someone who is extremely honest and personable and able to befriend most people, even forming a close friendship with Bakugo specifically, and on the surface he appears to be someone who is driven by their fiery passion for manliness, but this is more of a persona that Kirishima built up over time. Deep down he's someone who struggles with an inferiority complex, though before we get too into that we should discuss the meaning behind his name and his origin. The name Eijiro Kirishima's history is a bit more interesting than the normal name in Hiroaka. So when broken down, it means sharp-cutting child or sharp-cutting youth, which doesn't appear to match up well with Kirishima's character compared to other names in the series, but you can make some vague connections. This is likely because it seems to be a carryover from an early prototype design of Kirishima, in which his personality was a lot more direct and cutting to the chase. But most importantly, his quirk didn't work exactly the same as it does now. It would appear that he would be able to sharpen his body to the point he was able to make his fingers into blades. Ultimately, the official Kirishima was changed from this prototype design, and bits of his character actually ended up with people like Kaminari. Though a lot of the aspects of prototype Kirishima did transfer over to the official character, such as his design, his hero name, and the origin for his quirk, which manifested when he was really young while he was rubbing his eye, causing him to accidentally cut himself, luckily not blinding him. The same is only partly true for that old quirk, as his assumed sharpening quirk was retooled into one of the most powerful quirks in the series, that being Hardening. Hardening is a transformation quirk that allows the user to harden parts of, if not their whole body, at will. And in this hardened state, it allows them to protect themselves from a multitude of hazards, some examples being collapsing metal, explosions, and bullets if they need to. Along with this, when the body hardens, it becomes rough and sharp, giving Kirishima rigid rock-like chunks all throughout his body that allows him to cut or graze enemies if he needs to. And this mixture of offense and defense makes Hardening an amazing combat-oriented quirk, especially since, theoretically, the defense capabilities of Hardening have actually no limit. Kirishima can always train to make himself harder than he was before, as unlike quirks like Steel, which make your body as hard as something, Hardening is just the idea of getting harder and more durable over time, which gives it a much more massive skill ceiling. All he needs to do is find someone to deliver more damage over time. So quite literally, what doesn't kill Kirishima makes him stronger. Though the quirk does have some drawbacks to it. Starting first, Hardening has no range capabilities, meaning all fights will have to be up close and personal for him to be effective. Along with this, you also have how the base hard form that Kirishima can do only can take so much punishment at a time. With each hit, it slowly chips away at his stamina, and if the attacker comes at him with a rapid barrage of strikes, soon his body will soften and return to normal. Though Kirishima has developed a few super moves to make up for these drawbacks. Starting first with Red Counter, in which Kirishima runs forward at an enemy, forcing them to attack him, and once he sees the attack coming, he will harden, allowing him to tank whatever hit was coming his way, all the while allowing him to land in a counter hit while their defenses are down. This super move seems to be designed to allow Kirishima to pick his fights, and the damage that he has to take, allowing him to manage his own stamina so he doesn't drain himself dry. Though sometimes the amount of damage coming his way is a bit more than he could normally take, be it an attack that is directed at him or others that he needs to protect. Either way, Kirishima needs to tank this hit, thus he forces himself to harden up as much as possible, and this is where Red Riot Unbreakable comes from. Unbreakable is his quirk taken to its ultimate extreme. Kirishima hardens his body to the absolute maximum and then goes beyond that, creating an absolute monstrous wall that refuses to break or move. Now, this unbreakable form isn't permanent, it has a set time limit, but while activated, Kirishima is nearly invincible for roughly 40 seconds if he was at his peak of stamina. And the idea behind the attack is to act as sort of a mixture between a bulldozer and a wall, someone that no one can stop and allows Kirishima to protect people the best he can. And while in his unbreakable form, Kirishima moves in for a final finishing super move called Red Gun Turret, in which Kirishima punches his way through any offense an enemy might put up until he reaches the source, slamming them with a fist stronger than any bone, stone, or metal, creating a devastating gut punch that knocks the wind out of them. The name turret probably refers to the action of smashing his way through the defenses with an offense, much like that of a machine gun turret mounted and cutting its way through an offensive line. Though, Unbreakable has its own limits. Any rapid succession of intense damage, like Rappa's fist, can crack its unbreakable shell. But Kirishima can force himself to stand through this at the risk of his own body, as seen in the fight with Rappa, where he basically gets most of his upper layer of skin punched off. Though, what drives Kirishima to stay standing is his own desire to be the person that he was pretending to be for so many years. The person who earned the hero name Red Riot, as before the events of Hiroaka, Kirishima was a bit of a different person. As a child, Kirishima developed his quirk at an unfortunate time. He cut himself on the rigid edges of his hardened hand, and this instilled a personal hatred for his own quirk, as not only did it feel like it was something holding him back, but he also thought of it as not flashy and kind of useless. It didn't seem like the quirk of a real hero. At least he thought that until he found his own personal idol, the chivalrous hero Crimson Riot, as he was a pro-hero who had a similar quirk to him, but also had a moral code that Kirishima could adopt and make his own. This being to be manly and stand tall in the face of danger, because as long as you have a manly spirit, it doesn't matter what kind of quirk you have, you can be a hero. And though Crimson Riot used the term manly, what he meant more is having a strong mental fortitude and being filled with determination and courage. So technically, anyone can be manly no matter what they are born. It's more about being confident. And Kirishima took this to heart and started training to be as manly as possible, working out every day, changing his diet to mostly meat dishes, and he even began to act the part of a hero, jumping in to help those in need at his school. But he really wasn't effective, and most people mocked him for his outdated mindset. Though people kept trying to bring him down, the words of others weren't the thing that broke his spirit. It wasn't till on his way home from school one day when he saw his classmates in danger. A large man in a cloak was threatening them, and yet he wasn't able to move. Even though he wanted to go over there and he wanted to help them, he couldn't will himself to move. He was too scared. And he was soon made very aware of how much playing he was doing when he was playing hero. And this feeling was made even worse when he saw his classmate Mina overcome her fears and run in to protect the girls. She was not only someone with a flashy quirk, a flashy personality, but she had more courage than he ever did. And this mixture of watching someone like Mina doing what he couldn't caused him to realize his quirk wasn't the thing holding him back. All his big talk about manly spirit and heroic passion was just that. Talk. He couldn't act when he needed to because deep down he was scared, because he didn't trust himself, because he had no faith in his quirk. The words that he thought he had brushed off and built up a barrier towards actually buried themselves deep within his mind, his subconscious, and echoed throughout it whenever he doubted himself. And this sent him into a spiral of self-doubt, lashing out at himself in his room until he accidentally knocked a holotape off his shelf, which began to play an interview of his idol Crimson Riot, talking about his history as a hero. Something he had never gotten around to watching, and here he learns that his own heroic icon struggled with the same confidence and fear issues he did. But one day, due to his inability to act, Crimson Riot couldn't prevent the deaths of innocent people, and those innocent people still haunt him to this day. And the haunting event like that drives Crimson Riot to act even when he's scared. Because the Crimson Riot, being manly isn't about being fearless. Only idiots and liars are fearless. Being manly is about being a hero and committing to your actions even in the face of danger. And this helped Kirishima reinvent himself. He began to work his ass off even more to become the person that he was pretending to be all that time throughout middle school, strengthening not only his drive, but his quirk use, being able to rank at 2nd place in the UA entrance exam and completely changing his look for his high school debut. He was done with regrets, and from this point on, he was willing to do anything to protect his friends, be it taking an unknown attack like he does in the license exam, or even being willing to break the law in the case of Bakugo's own rescue mission. And Horikoshi created him to be someone who can keep Class 1A well-rounded, and this is because due to his dual personality, he's able to relate with anyone and everyone within the class, be it Bakugo, who he finds common ground with them both putting up a tough front, or relating to Deku, who tries his hardest to stand up against insurmountable odds to protect those who are in danger, or even just finding common ground with a near clone of himself in Tetsu. He's someone that Horikoshi can put into any situation and get a good and interesting interaction out of the conflict. Along with this, Kirishima's own self-awareness about his weakness allows him to grow stronger in the same way that his quirk does. He goes to find someone who can bring that next step, that next evolution out of him, and he reaches it during his standoff against Rappa, because on that day, the young boy Kirishima was faded away, and in his place stood the man who was given the heroic title, Red Riot. And it would appear that Kirishima's growth throughout the series has affected a lot of the readers reading along, because he went from rank 15 in the popularity polls to taking the top 5 spot for the next 3 polls, cementing himself as a fan favorite character. And it would seem that given his connection to one of the UA's big 3, that Kirishima will remain an important character for time to come. So hopefully we'll get to see more of him in the future, especially more interactions with Tamaki and Fat Gum, given that Tetsu has now joined the team. Along with this, for future predictions of Kirishima throughout the series, I really hope we get to see a rematch between him and Rappa at some point, maybe during a Prison Break arc, but I'm almost sure that Kirishima will be the one taking on Gigantomachia in a future arc, given that he is the beast that caused Kirishima to freeze up all those years ago and almost nearly ended his hero career early. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like it in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MannyNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to harden your own manly spirit, you can do so first with a copy of Shimonetta, a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist at buyshimonetta.com.